Hi, I'm Mike McMahon, and you are listening to The Greatest Trek.
My friends, the great experiment.
Down on the lower decks.
Hidden Trek.
Would you look at that?
The greatest Trek. And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek. The greatest Trek.
Welcome to Greatest Trek. It's a new Star Trek podcast from the makers of The Greatest Generation. I'm Adam Pranica.
I'm Ben Harrison.
Back on our Star Trek business is what we are right now.
10 toes in.
Love it. You remember the last time we watched a new Lower Decks episode? Would it surprise you to know that it's been almost a year?
Crazy.
I don't like that.
No.
I know these episodes take a lot of work to make, but holy moly. A year seems like it's too long.
Seems too long. Seems like they should be making more of seems like this shouldn't be the last season. Seems like a lot of things.
Yeah. I don't know. What can we do? What can we do to get more Lower Decks is a question that I've been preoccupied with. These things are out of our control.
Yeah.
All we can do is celebrate the good things while we have them, grieve the things after they're unjustly taken away, and try to have some laughs along the way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, if there's a petition going around, I'll sign that shit.
Yeah. What has a petition ever done?
I don't know. Not much. Not much good.
Get off my fucking porch with your petition. I don't sign anything on my porch.
Oh, yeah.
This is my refrain. Every time a solicitor comes by, it just ends the whole thing in a way that is clear, not impolite, just I don't sign anything from my porch.
Yeah.
Like, give me your information if you want me to know more about it.
So it sounds like you don't want more Lower Decks, actually, at the end of the day.
You know what? If you told me that a petition getting signed on my porch would make any difference at all, I would absolutely sign it. But I've just not seen evidence to that end.
Well, I'm so excited about this episode and getting into this season, Adam. It's been a bit of a journey getting there. We're recording this the day before these drop on Paramount Plus because just seems like we had to kind of like squeaky wheel our way toward getting these screeners, and we finally did it.
Right. I just want to say my thoughts are with the folks that have been downsized out of Paramount/CBS. That being the primary reason we were not able to get screeners up until the last moment.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like a lot of churn going on over there, and it sucks for the level of employee that would have to deal with us. I mean, it sucks in one way where, you know, they lost their jobs. It's probably a plus in another way where they don't have to deal with us anymore.
No more thirsty Star Trek podcasters sliding into their email inbox.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's slide into this episode, Ben. It's the premiere of Season 5 of Lower Decks.
It's called Dos Cerritos.
You know the greatest danger facing us is an irrational fear of the unknown.
Wow, alternate dimensions!
I was a little surprised, given the amount of time between the end of the last season and this one, that we didn't get a last season on.
Yeah.
Very presumptuous that we would just get on the level of where we are story-wise.
Yeah, I didn't remember. I have been meaning to go back and watch my way back through Lower Decks, but my amount of free time being what it is, that hasn't happened yet. But we start with a clip that I think they released this on the internet a while back as a teaser for this season. This is Tendi in like gold digger drag, and she is parading around a ship with a real Kivas Fajo type.
I'm rich is what I'm saying.
Wait, is that a Velton lust idol?
Who is showing off all of his priceless collection to her.
It's got to be the most fun of having a collection of any kind. The time when you show it off. This is what it's all about. If you're a collector, come look at my things.
Sure, yeah. I mean, also like the thrill of winning in one of those auctions where people hold up the little paddle.
I know.
That's got to be pretty fun.
He was stating the obvious again.
I've never done that. I've only ever gone to silent auction. Have you been to paddle auction?
I've never been to paddle auction. I would love to hear the guy like, what we got here is a... What's the, like a fertility idol going... $1,000, $1,000, gold by platinum. Do I hear 2,000 bars of gold by platinum?
Saying fertility idol 10 times fast sounds like a real exercise for the tongue.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you can't get your partner off by saying fertility idol as fast as you can while you're down there.
Yeah, I hear Terry Gross says fertility idol 10 times to get her vocal cords warmed up before she goes on the air.
This is fresh air.
Yeah.
So there's a banger, and there is an Orion ship incoming. This is an emergency that triggers a lockdown aboard the ship. But this Kivas or similar announces that he can control the whole ship from here, from his collection room, from his vault, I guess, once it's locked down. That is when Tendi drops the mask, drops the holographic disguise she's wearing, and starts kicking his ass and all of the dudes that look like they would hang out with a Ferengi or Lwaxana Troy to be their bagman.
She uses the computer station that's popped up in the room to lower the defenses on the toy ship, and that allows her pirate crew to board, and they all proceed with kicking the asses of all of these henches.
Yeah.
And in just a really nice reminder of how much you can develop a fight scene when you're an animated series. Like, there's arm breaking and compound fight moves and all the rest. And when you combine that with the music and the composition, this is real true blue action movie stuff you get in a scene like this.
I love the move where the guy goes around her from behind and she puts her feet up on the computer console, flips over him and kicks at the ass of the guy behind him.
Yeah. It feels like the jump has been gotten and the Orions are kicking so much ass. It feels like we're going to get to the moment where these pirates are going to slaughter these toy people, but Tendi is the one to intervene. She may be serving on this Orion ship with an Orion crew, but she still very much has Starfleet values here.
Yeah, no killing seems to be the rule. A non-lethal form of piracy is what she's advocating for. And this is a bit of a culture shock for her crew.
Well, can I at least chop off an ear or a finger or something? No! Now load up the loot and let's get out of here.
But one of them does get a souvenir from this fight, which is the prescription nosehole ribbon that she rips out of the Kivas dude's face.
Yeah, it's their duty to take that booty, but just not kill them. It's the big takeaway here. And on into an updated theme we go. That enormous battle sequence that we've gotten added to season after season, I don't know how much bigger it could get after this. We've got the giant hand from that one weird TOS episode, and we've also got V'ger to join the gang with Whale Probe and Borg's ship and Crystalline Entity and all the rest. Are they all here? All the bigs? Are we missing anyone?
Man, yeah, I mean...
I guess Dyson Sphere isn't there, but Dyson Sphere isn't necessarily like a weapons platform.
No, but you'd love to see some Ferengi ships in there. You'd love to see... I mean, there's so many things I'd love to see in there.
Just a very old man floating in space. Not really doing much, but you know he could if you test him.
Yeah. What about that Husnock ship? That thing's big and scary.
We're never going to get another season to find out. They dumped the toy box out on this scene in the theme. This is what we get.
They announced all of the titles for all of the episodes this morning on social media, and I didn't see anything that would lead me to believe that we had Kevin in our future on this show.
Good check, because that might be the only thing to make me hate this show.
If they took Kevin and
Kevin is
take
our
him back
toy
from us.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be down for them to do it if we got to sit in the room, as they beat out the script,
You don't have to use our great Kevin voice impressions, but I think we could help by directing whoever's voice that is into the proper sibilance.
You have to say something kind of unspeakably tragic and horrific
Yes.
In a way that sounds like you're telling someone about a bowling game you lost.
Tragedy plus time plus Rishon Uxbridge equals comedy. That's the formula for success.
Over on the Cerritos, Boimler is all excited because he thinks he's going to be in the Starfleet official magazine. I guess this is like an industry rag for Starfleet, and they do a 30 under 30, and he was under the impression he was going to be in it, and he is not.
Back when you could first read a magazine on an iPad, I thought, this is it. I'm going to start reading so many magazines. I'm going to stop all my subscriptions to the magazines that just sort of pile up on the coffee table. This is going to be the new thing. It's going to be great. I probably read fewer magazines than I ever have as soon as that switchover happened. And when I see Boimler waving around the magazine on his iPad, I'm like, fuck, there was a day. There was so much potential in that. And I never realized it. Like, I never went down that digital magazine road. Did you?
Yeah, I dabbled. Like, I definitely like got some magazines and tried to do it, but yeah.
There's something about holding the paper.
The paper is
that
fun.
I just love.
Yeah. I only get the New Yorker, and I recently got a subscription to The Onion now that they're doing a print edition of that again.
The New Yorker. Yes, the New Yorker, right?
It's really fun to get a periodical in the mail.
I told you this before. For some reason, I'm on the Hollywood Reporter subscription list.
Are you still on it, even though you moved?
Get it every week.
Amazing.
I don't know why, and I don't know how, and don't you fucking tell on me. Whoever's out there.
Oh, man.
Thinking they're going to get in between me and my Hollywood Reporter, which I read religiously. I am up to date.
No, don't snitch Adam out on his free Hollywood Reporter subscription, all right?
I love it. It's so big. Its dimensions are huge.
It's like Broadsheet the magazine. It's fucking wild.
Don't ever change Hollywood Reporter, especially my subscription.
Yeah, it would be genuinely devastating to think that there was going to be a big thing about how great you are in a magazine, and then it shows up and it's not.
Yeah. He's not even in the honorable mentions. Even Naomi Wildman gets a mention, an honorable mention.
Yeah.
She's like 10 years old. Let's face it, I plateaued.
This is something that crushes Boimler.
Brutal.
The greatest trek
Is yet to come.
The news is that Mariner has been assigned a new batch of ensigns, and she is not feeling great about the potential of being a role model.
This has got to be a ride she's rode before, though, right? Like she's been a lieutenant a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's got to be a leader.
Do you think she's got that part on her neck where the pips go that's like when you take a picture frame off the wall that's been there for a while? There's like the shadow pip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where the nicotine stains didn't go.
Yeah.
T'Lyn believes that she's going to be good. I like T'Lyn's vote of confidence here. They're hanging out in the shuttle bay with the Sequoia, and Rutherford pops up.
You'll be great! Oh, jeez, Rutherford, where did you come from, buddy?
I've been here the whole time.
I love how Rutherford is like unendingly cheerful even when he is in the pits of misery.
I mean, pits of misery is right. He's looking pretty disheveled. And this is another part of the episode that, like, the detail of it I really enjoyed. It's amazing how far animation has come when, you know, Pigpen walked with the stink lines so that Rutherford could run with pit stains. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not looking great. He's got a scraggly whiskers. He's got the pit stains. He's not taking great care of himself. He's just been working himself to the bone so as not to think about how sad he is about Tendi, I guess. But they all get called up to the bridge because the ship has encountered a quantum fissure. I love the vibes being like they are kind of like the road crew for Starfleet. They got to go like dump some asphalt into this interstellar pothole and fill it up.
Yeah, quantum buttholes have appeared all over the place. This is just another chore, and this thing starts winking at them pretty fast, and it sucks the Cerritos right inside. And on the other side, they find another Cerritos.
Like an all-time great construction is dunking into the rift like a giant cookie.
It does that thing that I think Star Trek Picard did really well with its compositions, which is like it presents a ship at an angle that suggests an attitude.
Yeah.
This Cerritos is like facing nose down a little bit. It's a mood.
And it's like backlit in a way that is like a little bit spooky initially.
Yeah.
They get a hail from Captain Becky Freeman. This is a bit of a shock. They've encountered an alternate universe version of themselves, or rather perhaps the prime universe version of themselves. But we'll find more about that later. We cut back over to Tendi's storyline, where she is on FaceTime with her sister De'Erica. And De'Erica is very pleased with the recent piracy that she's been up to. This is in service of paying off a debt. So Tendi is like, hey, like how close I am to fulfilling my obligation here, because I'd really like to get back to Starfleet. And De'Erica presents her with an opportunity to do just that. Go recover this old antique Orion vessel that crash landed on a planet. We got the information about it from an archaeologist. We're the only ones that know about it. If you get that ship, you're free to go.
Seems like a great deal. It seems like if she can do this, she can go back home to her other home.
But her home is in a different dimension right now.
Yeah. On the Cerritos, in the conference room, characters and alternate characters are commingling, and they're mostly getting along. And one way visually we can distinguish one character from their counterpart is just a little bit different shading on the color of their uniform. The our universe Cerritos crew has lighter shaded uniforms than the ones that they've encountered inside the space butthole. So that's how you can tell them apart if one isn't so obvious as to have like a beard while the other one doesn't.
Yeah, this kind of reminded me of like when we spent some time on Riker's ship. Like it seemed like their uniforms were a little bit of a darker shade of red than the Cerritos ones. But yeah, so there are subtle differences. You know, Rutherford from the other ship has a lot more modifications. Ransom has a sweet mullet. T'Lyn says remarkable in one universe and fascinating in another.
Ben, I've got a very revealing question that I think would tell FODs a lot about our specific personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Were you to be confronted by a Benjamin R. Harrison from a different universe, would you welcome them as a friend, or would you hate them reflexively?
Judging by the years and years of therapy that I have been through, I am sad to say that I think my instinct might not be one of kindness toward my alternate self.
Yeah, I think baseline, it would be very hard to not be revolted by the other you in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to like me.
Would you jack that guy off? It's you, basically.
Yeah, I think I'd jack him off.
That guy can jack himself off. That's what I think. So, one very big difference between versions of characters is with the Rutherford character. Our Rutherford, mostly human except for the head appliance. This other version of Rutherford is mostly robo in appearance.
Billups, in their universe, king.
Yeah.
In this universe, kind of the opposite in a lot of ways.
He really pulls off that cape.
Noticeable absence is that of Captain Freeman on the other ship. There is a bit of a mystery about where Prime Freeman is.
They don't talk much about that. Instead, they're talking about the plan for how to get our Cerritos, and I'm just going to call the Cerritos that. The Cerritos that belongs to you and me, Ben.
Yeah.
Back into their proper universe. And the plan on the table, or on the screen, as it were, is to connect the warp nacelles between the two ships, shoot an energy pulse into the butthole, and then send the Cerritos home to its proper universe.
Yeah, they're sort of teaming up to form an interstellar bidet, if you will.
The entire time this plan is described, there is some friction between the two crews about which is prime and which is alternate in a way that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Who gets to decide who is real and who doesn't belong or whatever? It's a real narcissism of minor differences, right?
It's almost like we represent each other's lives if we'd made slightly dissimilar choices or something.
I was persuaded by this new ship that they were the prime universe.
It didn't take much, huh?
I like to believe that that the ones that we've been spending all this time with are in fact the weird and abnormal version of the Cerritos. So we get to spend a little time with the pairs. Everybody kind of pairs off with their alternate self, and Mariner really doesn't know how to handle Becky, who is, has way more pips and way more responsibility and is, her hair is up high and tight, and Becky sort of assumes that what Mariner is going to want are tips on how to advance her career and be better as a Starfleet officer, which is not exactly what Mariner is looking for, but in the context of having new ensigns to lead, kind of consents that this might actually be slightly helpful.
It's interesting. The details of this conversation suggest that the Captain Becky Freeman version was able to ascend to her level, not because of any difference in aptitude, but just about effort. She had ambition in a different way. They both have the same qualities in many ways.
Whoa, it's not about aptitude, it's about attitude.
You got it. Yeah. That's the poster. Very motivating.
Hey! Cheaters don't deserve Nausicaa in Latinum!
Well, there's a new ship. She's got the right name. She's got the right name. Now, you remember that, you hear?
On the planet that this crash ship is on, Tendi and her crew board this old junker that's been sitting on the surface of this planet in a jungly kind of environment. And pretty quickly, somebody bumps into a computer panel and it lights up and turns on, and Tendi is able to download a bunch of information about this ship, which is genuinely huge. And so this is actually valuable information about its layout that will lead them to the bridge, which she wants to get right to, but her crew kind of want to explore and enjoy how spooky and weird this place is.
It seems like fun. I never really got a sense of its scale at any point. Did you? Not to skip to the very, very end, but that's the moment you realize how massive it is.
Yeah.
And not really before.
Yeah, it's only told and not shown until then. But yeah, it does sort of bespeak a kind of enthusiasm for the adventure that her crew has. They really want to enjoy how freaky this place is. And Tendi is all about that business. She just wants to turn her booty in and go back to Starfleet. But some blue Orions show up. This was one of those Star Trek deep cuts that I needed to do a little research to understand, which is that in the animated series, I guess this was how they drew Orions, and they also mispronounced them. So I spent a little time on Memory Alpha learning what I needed to know to understand the joke.
Green Orions!
Blue Orions!
And that's basically the thrust of it. These guys are pissed, and a firefight pops right off, pretty much from jump. But we don't stick around here. We're back on the Cerritos, where the two ships are in kind of a reverse cowgirl configuration. You gotta believe they thought a lot about how these ships would interact.
Yeah.
In this specific way.
I really liked it. Yeah, and it seems like the warp core is mid-ejection on both ships, so it can touch in the middle.
Yeah.
So they're touching tips, and they're installing stuff on the warp nacelles and stuff. There's a lot of shuttlecraft hovering around. People are in spacesuits. We get the sense that the two Boimlers, one of whom has a very handsome beard, really get along. They seem to genuinely like each other.
And why wouldn't they? I mean, at their core, they are very pleasant people, and bearded Boimler is someone that that our Boimler kind of looks up to. He seems like his ambition is paid off. He's getting the things that I think Boimler in our universe kind of covets.
Yeah.
The attention and the appreciation, and for example, his opportunities to be in the captain's chair are fairly numerous compared to our Boimler's opportunities. And this is something that the bearded Boimler kind of dismisses as just a thing that happens to him. It happens to him all the time.
I thought it was an interesting choice that Prime Bearded Boimler had the same number of pips as our universe Boimler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it seems like he is like on the launch pad in his career in a way over the course of it. Like we're like, oh, he's on the fast track now. But up to this point, he has proceeded at a relatively similar pace to his alternate universe counterpart. They open the door and Rutherford is momentarily very worried about his counterpart, but it turns out his counterpart had gotten rid of all of his guts and goo.
Yeah.
He can survive in space.
He's gone full robo. And that's not all. Like you can go full robo and still maintain some of your core memories or humanity, I guess. This Otherford made the choice to wipe their memory banks of things like Tendi, a person that Otherford does not remember whatsoever.
And therefore is not sad about the absence of. And that is, I feel like, a tempting idea to Rutherford. He's like, well, I'll just go be best friends with him in place of Tendi, the best friend that he doesn't know that he's missing. But also, I feel like it is planting an idea in him, like that there is a way out of the bad feelings that he's feeling.
I mean, this is sad on a couple of levels. Like, our Rutherford sees this as an opportunity to give friendship to someone who is incapable of accepting it. Like, it's just another example of this Rutherford in the Magnolia sense, like having a lot of love to give and not knowing where to put it.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't seem like it's going to end well for either of them.
No. Inside one of the Dos Cerritoses, Becky and Mariner are walking around together, and you kind of realize, like, before Mariner does, that Becky is a bit of an asshole, kind of like a disciplinarian, and her whole crew are really stressed whenever she walks by them in the hallway. They keep, like, dropping stuff so that they can stand at attention for her. This is, starts to dawn on Mariner as they walk around doing the stuff that they need to do.
I mean, they're getting shit done, but the hard-assness of Captain Becky is a real contrast to the way our Mariner tends to be.
A captain has to maintain discipline above all else.
It's hard-assness to an extreme. Like, she's sending people to the brig for having interpersonal conflicts of any kind.
Yeah. Yeah, punishing the kiss-up, I thought, was a really fun move in the cargo bay. Like,
I didn't like that one bit.
It's not the folks who are fighting, it's the fucking bootlicker who tries to explain it that gets punished. But that was great. Back on the Orion ship, that phaser fight is in progress, and we learned that the Blorians believe that they've claimed this vessel first, and Tendi just wants a truce, but she's not in time to propose this before one of her pirates stabs a guy in the gut, and Tendi secretly heals this dude, and he runs off when the Orion crew is left.
Yeah. It's like she's closing rifts. Meanwhile, the Cerritos is trying to open a rift.
God, that's so good. So good.
And while Tendi succeeds in closing, they fail in the opening. Wow. I just wrote that film paper on the fly right here.
You're in mid-season form. This is just a premiere episode, Ben. Chill the fuck out.
This does not go well. I guess, like, our Billups fucked up some of the math or something.
You don't like to see that.
And their Billups a real dick about it. A fight breaks out between the Kashans, and this leads Captain Becky Freeman to break out the riding crop. We learn that she is a riding crop captain, which are the worst kinds of captains Starfleet has.
In my recollection, the captain of the Excelsior never hit anyone with his swagger stick.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever did that. Was that ever the subtext of that, or was it just purely swagger?
I mean, I feel like it's always the subtext when you carry one of those around. I had a history teacher in middle school who would whack your desk if he thought you weren't paying attention with a writing crop.
Wow.
And I think back on that, like, man, that guy was fucking cruising for a lawsuit.
As long as he didn't accidentally hit anyone, as long as he just hit desk.
He was a very beloved teacher too. Like he was like, I looked forward to his class because he did a great job and he was very like engaging. But yeah, like there was a writing crop present, and if you miss,
to your knowledge, no other horse interests by this teacher.
No,
this is an anachronistic riding crop.
He had a weird sports car that he'd like built out of parts from two different cars. So
he liked things with horses.
Yeah, it had like a Porsche front end and something else on the back end. I feel like, yeah, he was a strange guy.
It was like a real summer rental situation.
Yeah.
So Mariner gets in between and takes great umbrage with this way of captaining.
Things are getting really close to a boiling point. So they have to, I guess, like do more shit to fix up the nacelles to do this job right.
Yeah, we're back in the middle of the two ships out in space.
Yeah. An observation is made by our Boimler that Rutherford has modified himself pretty dang close to being a Borg's. And this is by way of encouraging our Rutherford not to aspire to what Rutherford has in terms of like emotional detachment, because maybe that's not actually that good.
I couldn't really concentrate on the topic at hand because this is the scene where it is revealed that Rutherford has installed a third jacking arm to do some of the work that he's done. And in the clear and present danger parlance, Rutherford doesn't have one of those, does he? I mean, you look at this thing and it's like smaller in dimension than a normal arm.
Yeah.
So his dick's got to look like a sewer pipe in his hand, right?
It's got to be very exciting to look down and see the
You're not feeling it.
The ratio.
Yeah. Yeah. A very specific design there. You might think that Rutherford doesn't have a lot of emotional feelings about a lot, but you can tell he is a onanism enthusiast with how he's crafted that third arm.
Indeed. You know, I recently read the novel of Clear and Present Danger as part of prep for our smash hit Patreons only podcast, Wholesome. They don't have that line in there. Like none of the iconic lines from the movie are in the book.
If Ritter's dialogue came from Ritter the actor or Ritter the actor and the director kind of working it out on set, that's amazing because everything about what Ritter says feels very lived in and a specific choice.
Ritter's like a much more nuanced character. He's not all bad in that book.
I had a feeling. I kind of like Ritter.
You're an anti-Ryan.
Would you look at that?
Rutherford decides to make an unconsensual adjustment to Rutherford's programming.
I couldn't believe this. He just pushes that button without asking.
What are you doing?
Don't like it. I don't like that he forcibly changes the friendship matrix on this guy. And once he does, he becomes more like Rutherford in personality.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Boims are talking, and our Boimler wants to know what it takes to grow the beard, to be the cool Boimler.
Real quick, can you run me through every decision you ever made?
Bearded Boimler's like, no, man, like I can't talk you through all that. That's like, you got to live your own life. You got to be your own man, which is so fucking cool.
It's pretty cool.
But he walks away and leaves his iPad floating in space right there. And our Boimler grabs it.
Back on the Orion shipwreck, Tendi's crew are skulking around on their way to the bridge when the Blue Orions catch up to them. And after getting the jump on them, they take their map. And it's a little weird that the guy they thought was stabbed and killed is alive again. And it's in this moment that Tendi is accused of being a traitor.
She betrayed them. And this is enough to have them turn on her. Turns into a mutiny right there aboard the ship. A knife is to her throat, and she is slammed against a wall. Then we cut away.
This episode does this a lot, right? Cutting away at precisely the moment of greatest danger.
Yeah, like if I have one criticism of this episode, it is that like that span of time feels really important, and we're like away from Tendi while she has a knife to her neck in a way where I'm like, I feel like we need to know like what happened after that, you know?
Do you believe that these are like compatible versions of danger in a way that like we often criticize this in other Star Trek shows, live action Star Trek shows, where like we'd cut to the B story off of the A story and it would feel like getting the bends in terms of intensity. I think the show tries its best to like maintain an equilibrium from those cutaways, but still like I never like cutting away from an interesting moment.
Yeah, and it feels like these are meant to be contemporaneous. Like these two things are happening in parallel, and when you're away from one of the adventures, it's still continuing apace while the other adventure is going on.
Right.
But yeah, we're back on the Cerritos. They've fixed whatever the issue was, and Captain Becky kicks all of the non-prime Starfleet people off of her ship.
Alternate Cerritos, it has not been a pleasure.
Get the fuck out!
She wants a final word with Beckett Mariner, and they go into her captain's ready room, and she promptly stuns Beckett Mariner.
Yeah. What's she going to do with that dustbuster? By the time she asks the question, it's too late. She's down, and when she comes to, turns out she's been restrained and costumed to look like Captain Becky and has the power bun and everything. And that's because Captain Becky wants to trade places with our Mariner. She has become everything that she used to hate and prefers the Mariner lifestyle to the Captain Becky lifestyle. And this is a way to undo the choices she's made.
Right down to her look, which is way cuter this way.
Back on the Orion ship, Tendi is up against the wall by pirates who were supposed to be her friends.
She's been up against this wall long enough for Mariner to get stunned and then come to having had her uniform taken off of her and replaced with a different uniform, which like unconscious, that's got to take a long time, right? Like that's got to be a pretty laborious process.
Hell of a time with a knife to your throat to be able to explain and turn the tables on these folks. She just wants a new pirate code. Can't they see this? One where they plunder and they yo-ho-ho without so much of the killing. And the crew, after hearing this, is like, Tendi followed her dreams, and we want to do that too. And this is the moment that feels like an exchange, right? If they do less killing, Tendi is going to help them follow those dreams.
I want to bake.
I want to dance.
And I want to teach ethics at Orion University.
And this seems like an agreeable compromise for everyone involved.
They have just been on that Orion grind set where they saw Tendi go follow her dreams and assumed that was because of what an accomplished pirate she was. And she was like, no, I haven't even done that much pirating. So I'll help you do that by walking away from piracy. We just got to get this ship. And again, an accident leads to a room powering up on this ship. And they realize that this is not a cruiser warship as they originally believed it to be, but it is in fact a medical frigate with really fantastic airflow setup built into it.
All of their bathroom fans have been cleaned of dust. They're free-flowing in a way that you want.
Yeah.
If you're a homeowner.
This house is not going to burn down.
Yeah. It's goodbye time over on the Cerritoses, on the Dos Cerritos. They're saying their goodbyes and mounting the transporter pad. And Rutherford and Anotherford, who seems to be truly changed by the experience because he has been without his consent. They're ready to part ways. And late arriving is Mariner. a mariner who is now played by Captain Becky. And the crew disembarks. It seems like at this point she's going to get away with it.
It does, even though she is not playing the part perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't going to abandon your old friend Amundo, were you?
Friend Amundo?
Something new I'm trying.
Yeah, she's slipping. You can tell.
They fire the pulse. It works. Gets the rift open big enough for our Cerritos to fly back through. And as they say goodbye to each other over FaceTime, Captain Freeman learns that her counterpart in the Prime universe got reassigned to Starbase 80.
Damn, Starbase 80?
Fate that seems worse than death, using the context clues of whenever Starbase 80 is brought up.
I cannot wait to go there.
I know. Does not appear to be an escape from Starbase 80, but Mariner has escaped her restraints in the ready room and makes her way to that version of the Cerritos' bridge. She tries blowing in a hail. You know, as captain, you can order a lot of things, and she, by inhabiting the part, asks for hails to be opened and maybe firing on them to stop them from leaving would be a course of action.
That takes a little bit more push from her because Shax is not necessarily willing to go for that.
The Becky counterpart has done what she can to block those hails from coming in, and that's why she's got to escalate things a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that Mariner was bad at playing herself in this.
Can you be specific about which Mariner you're talking about playing which version?
I can't because they were both bad at inhabiting each other's role. Like,
it would seem as though Becky would do better at playing the previous version of herself.
Yeah, cutting loose more.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't seem to have come naturally at all. This is an effortful thing.
It doesn't fly with either crew, and pretty soon, like, both crews realize that they're not dealing with the person they thought they were dealing with, and Captain Freeman finally answers a hail on her own chair, even though Becky is like on her knees begging her not to send her back. And so they do a quick back and forth beam, getting the correct mariners in the correct places. Captain Becky is off to the brig, leaving Prime Bearded Boyms to be in command as our Cerritos goes back through the space butthole.
At the same time, those blue Orions were laughing gassed into submission. The pirates take them down, get them all restrained, and then fly their ship off planet.
Yeah.
Successful mission over there.
This is when we get to feel that scale of that ship. And I think that...
I like the clockwork of this ship, like the weird rotating mass situation on the back.
Yeah.
Like, rotating mass equals old Starship, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. And it felt very animated series in its design. I haven't seen that episode of the animated series, but I would be surprised if this wasn't a reference to something in that at the very least.
We'll get there eventually. We'll watch the next season of Strange New Worlds. And then on like the mainline show, we're going to watch original series and then go back around to watch Next Gen and then DS9 and then Voyager and then Enterprise. And then maybe we'll do animated series.
Oh, God.
Over there.
And we're going to be like 50 doing this.
Welcome to the greatest generation. This is what we sound like now.
It's like a roach motel. Jesus. So in the bar aboard the Cerritos, we're doing our classic end of an episode scene. Our Boimler has retained this red iPad that he yoinked from Prime Bearded Boyms. And Prime Bearded Boyms got the cover of the 30 Under 30 in the Starfleet magazine.
Pretty great.
He looks very heroic.
Nice to be back in the mess hall. Nice to be back in the booth with our remaining lower deckers. Now, the big takeaway from this scene is that Mariner has seen a version of herself that she doesn't want to become. As someone who's just been saddled with some new ensigns, she's seen a version of herself that's like, it's definitely in her.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, it's different. Like, when you know something is inside you, you can suppress it, but it's almost as if like if you don't know there's a part of your personality there, it becomes impossible to control. And so I think the big takeaway from this scene is like having encountered Captain Becky and all of her flaws, like this is something that she can avoid in her treatment of her ensigns.
Yeah, it's so cool that like that idea that like knowing what the worst case scenario of what you're stressing out about could be kind of defangs it and helps you control for not having that worst case scenario.
Right.
T'Lyn does little bits on parallel universes.
Remarkable.
Wait, are you?
I have fooled you.
Oh!
On Orion, that giant ancient ship has been taken back to D'Erica's place. And D'Erica's psyched about this big booty. Look at this big booty floating up above the palace. And it means Tendi can go back to Starfleet now. Tendi's psyched about this. But it isn't all good news because those blue Orions that were on the ship have declared war on them because the way they took the ship was very un-Orion.
Not piratey enough.
Look, D'Erica's still going to let Tendi go. Like, she's accomplished the mission. She's delivered the ship. But Tendi is of the type that, like, she wants to stay and clean up the mess. She feels responsible for what happened. And this delights D'Erica. And it seems as though war is on. And that's how we end the episode.
Yeah, Tendi was like on the verge of walking out the door, but with this war is like, no, fuck that. I'm staying and fighting for what's right, I guess.
Pretty great. It's now her choice to be there, which I think gives the whole thing a little different energy.
It really does. Did you like this episode, Adam?
She'll always bring it home.
It was nice to be back in Lower Decks, and it's the details of this show that I really like the most. One detail that stuck out that I don't think I've ever noticed before was when two characters get close and look at each other in a shot reverse shot kind of way, you get the pupil move of one character looking both characters in the eyes that a human face does.
Yeah.
And I noticed this in many scenes in a way that I haven't noticed before. And there's examples that are kind of like this throughout the episode of just like bodies doing things that bodies do, except they're animated. And it's just an example of how much fit and finish and detail and care there is in this expression of Star Trek. And it makes me feel great that people care so much about what they put together crafting this show. I mean, like the story itself, I've always been a fan of alternate universe stories. I think this is a fun, lower dexified version of that story because the differences are so minor. I thought that was neat. These aren't big, broad, weird, going 12 out of 10 on these characters. Like, just really minor tweaks. It's funny how the minorest tweaks created the most friction between the versions of the characters. I thought that was an interesting comment.
Were you ever like thinking that this was heading in a mirror universe direction? Like that scene where the two mariners are walking down the hallway and the Prime Universe crew members are like standing at full attention, and I was like, oh no, like are these MU people that are trying to like be on the down low about how evil they actually are?
I was kind of relieved that this wasn't that.
Yeah.
This is a different version of that. But like these minor differences, I thought created a kind of secret film paper in this episode and maybe in the show itself, because like the lengths that you go to distinguish yourself from your reputation can sometimes result in you kind of losing yourself, like in your identity. And I wonder if that's an example of Lower Decks commenting on Lower Decks itself. Like, this show is different as Star Trek shows go, but it's not out there, like way out there in a way that makes it unrecognizable. This is Star Trek. With Star Trek at its core, it's just got some minor tweaks to it. And the memory of what makes Star Trek great is not ever turned off here.
Yeah.
And so like generally and specifically, great stuff here, I thought. What about you?
Yeah, I feel very similarly. It feels like a nice warm bath, nice thing to get back into. And I thought this was a very funny episode. I thought, I love how this show will just be like, you're going to have to know about this weird Star Trek thing that only like one person really gives a shit about, like Blue Orions. Like 90% of the time, I already know about that one weird Star Trek thing. And I like the joke absolutely hits for me. And it was kind of fun to be on the outside of that for once.
Yeah.
Be like, wait, what is this?
Even the Blue Orions seem self-aware about their identities and how dorky their costumes are and stuff.
Yeah. So I had a lot of fun watching it. And glad to be back on the Cerritos. Also glad to be a show that receives priority 1 messages. Adam, do you want to see what's in the inbox?
Oh yeah, there's something coming out of the quantum butthole as we speak.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Ben, our first priority 1 message is of a promotional nature. Here's that message. Attention FODs. If you like wacky space adventures, and if you're listening to Lower Decks coverage, you know it's true, then you'll love Shattered Worlds RPG. It's a soaring space opera epic with wizards, cyber zombies, spaceships, and robots.
Whoa.
Start at Season 5 for our current campaign, or go all the way back to the start and hear us grow, space warts and all. And we're trans-friendly and leftist AF. Kern may have forgotten about us, but you will not. Kapla!
Wow.
Shattered World RPG is what you can ram into your podcatcher of choice. And it sounds like they've got multiple seasons to catch yourself up with.
That's really cool. I can't imagine there aren't people in our audience that would be interested in that. Adam, we have another priority 1 message here of a promotional nature, and it goes like this. Adam and Ben, this isn't really a promotional message. I just wanted to throw some scarves your way and help keep this show running for years to come. Got a chance to meet you in Portland last year. What a treat. Can't wait for another tour. FODs, support the show and help keep the lights on. Question. Adam, do you have a favorite voice/impression that Ben does, and vice versa? My favorite are Adam's Janeway impression and Ben's angry freakout with Darwin barking. Ron Canada drop, please.
Those are some pretty good favorites there from Tino from Edmonton.
I think my favorite is probably your Charles Bronson, which doesn't come out that often, but when it does, always delights me.
Yeah, not a lot of opportunities to do the Bronson. I think my favorite voices of yours are ones that I aspire to myself, but just can't. Like, I can't do Vichy French voice as hard as I try. I think the voices that we both do, you generally have a better grasp of. And I think finally, Ben, my favorite voice of yours is just your natural speaking voice.
Aww.
I think it is just a comfort to hear it, because that's the voice of my friend.
A lot of warmth in this room. Very kind of you to say, Adam. Feel very lucky to get to do a show with a person as comedically talented as you.
What is your favorite voice to do? Like, to bend that question in a different direction. Like, do you have something that is like fucking softball? I'm gonna crank this thing.
I feel like over the course of our coverage of Star Trek Picard, I don't think my Picard is good or believable, but I like doing it a lot.
It got good, though.
It got better.
I think that's an example of a voice that started really rocky and got really good fast.
Yeah. I think it's just fun to pretend you're Picard. What about you? You have one like that?
I mean, I miss Kern. I think there's something so funny about the words that Kern emphasizes. You want to know, like, behind the bit, that's the core of what makes that thing funny, is the emphasis on a weird word that he tended to do. Like, Tony Todd made that choice.
Right.
In a way that like made that Klingon character distinct from any other Klingon character. No one else does it like him.
Yeah, like Worf is the only one that's even a little bit similar, but it's not nearly as arch with Worf.
Yeah, big fun.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for a couple of promotional Priority 1 messages here. Those really move the needle in terms of support for the shows.
The call to action on that last one is just support the show, subscribe, buy a P1, buy some merch, and keep this show going.
Hey, thanks a ton, Tino. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Adam.
What's that, Ben?
Did you find yourself an Edward Larkin?
Edward Larkin! I mean, anytime you phaser your counterpart in an attempt to take their place in their universe, that seems like an Edward Larkin move to me. That's desperate and unhinged.
Self-serving.
That makes mine Captain Becky Freeman.
Yeah. Similarly unhinged and self-serving was Rutherford pushing the button under Otherford's head plate to make him friendlier. So that was why Rutherford was my Edward Larkin this time.
In a weird kind of anti-lobotomy, right? Like, it's still a lobotomy if you're changing what's going on in the brain circuitry, right?
You gotta ask. You must ask.
You gotta ask when you're penetrating any other body with a screwdriver or anything else.
It's very important.
That's what I think.
Well, Adam, this has been a ton of fun. Our final segment on every episode of Greatest Trek is the Warning Bois segment, where we express our appreciation for folks who go out on the internet and risk their reputations to recommend our show.
Prepare a buoy and launch it when ready.
Warning buoys.
An emergency buoy.
A warning buoy.
Do you got a warning bois for the people?
Sure do, Ben, and it's Greatest Trek specific. This is a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts.
Hell yeah.
Look, we don't make the rules. I can just tell you that the Apple Podcasts ratings and reviews really do make a difference algorithmically, but we want to encourage wherever you are, on whatever you listen to throw us a star or whatever the review currency is that matters over there. This 5-star review for Greatest Trek comes from a Bransonite, and the headline is just the right levels of smart and dumb. Smart enough to make me appreciate and learn about certain aspects of acting, staging, filming, etc. Dumb enough to make me laugh at the juvenile humor. Great job, guys. Keep it up.
That is, that's the best combination, right? That like 30 Rock, I can't believe this joke is so smart and so dumb at the same time.
That's the secret sauce right there. That's rural juror.
That's a very high compliment, a Bransonite. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who recommends the show online.
I'm very glad you're not a Bransonite, because then I'd know exactly where you live.
Oh, man. Terrifying.
Bronson, Missouri.
Everyone in town has a mustache.
Here we are just describing a Simpsons bit. A very good Simpsons bit it was.
Did Simpsons do it?
Yeah, a bus they were on got off instead of Branson, Missouri, in Bronson, Missouri.
Wow.
And I can almost describe this scene from memory. They get off, they notice that they're in the wrong place, and a mother with a mustache has an interaction with a baby in a carriage with a mustache. And the baby is like arguing with the mom, and the baby's like, "This ain't over."
The Simpsons is funny. Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We're going to let Wynde Priddy take us out with some credits, and she'll tell you a little bit about what's happening next week.
Wynde, you turn in this one super fast. If you like the episode, give her a shout on social media.
Yeah.
Big effort here.
Thanks, Wynde. Bye-bye.
Greatest Trek is an Uxbridge Shimoda podcast on the Maximum Fun Network. It's hosted by Ben Harrison and Adam Pranica, and it's produced and edited by Wynde Priddy. Ben and Adam are going to be back in your feed on Tuesday next week with a recap of Season 5, Episode 2, Shades of Green. Then they'll be back again next Friday with coverage of Episode 3. Every single episode, especially the extra ones, are made possible by the Maximum Fun members who support this show financially. We really appreciate everybody who does that at MaximumFun.org/join. Just takes a couple of minutes to set up a membership, and you'll get instant access to a ton of great bonus content when you do. Thanks to Nick Ditmore, who created the show art, and Adam Mergusio, who composed the theme music. Thank you to Rob Adler and Bill Tilley for all their work on the @GreatestTrek social media pages. Follow those accounts and use the hashtag GreatestTrek when you post about the show online. We're also on YouTube. Find us over there, and you can get subscribed to the Greatest newsletter and find yourself some fun merch at podshop.biz. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Greatest Trek.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows supported
directly
by you.